welcome to a new episode of Arduino EDUvision Season 4, episode number 2.
Yes, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and also new on this season, Crowdcast too.
Yeah, so if you're watching this from YouTube, hit the thumbs up, or Facebook. Can you put a thumbs up in YouTube? Yeah, you can.
YouTube.
Yeah, in Facebook you can put a heart, and then in LinkedIn there's this light bulb.
Yeah, exactly.
In Crowdcast, I don't know, but you can tell us which emojis you have there.
That's true. Try that out. So we are
Melissa
and Roxana.
And we're part of Arduino Education, as it says on our hoodies.
Yeah. You cannot see mine, but it says that too. So how are you? Please let us know who you are, where you're from. Say hi to us on the chat. We'd like to know how are you, what you do.
Where are you from? Are you working with education, programming, Arduino?
Exactly.
And we can see people are joining. So let me add you guys to that stream too.
Yes.
Hi, Samuel.
But where are you from, Samuel? Let us know. Yeah. Alexander, hello. Yeah. Keep commenting on the chat. Wisconsin, exactly. Dante from Wisconsin. Hello, everyone. Yeah. Good to see you on this new episode. Hope you will have a fun. And we have prepared so many things, but because today we're going to talk about open source and maker education, as next week we celebrate Software Freedom Day, and we will also show you a cool project using Arduino and processing.
Yeah, and we have a tutorial for this project, so after the show you can also create the project with processing. And you don't need that many components for this project.
No, very cool. So, people from Turkey, Paris, Argentina, Canada, Iran, oh, nice, Serbia, Italy, La Italia, Netherlands, wow. Thanks for joining, this is so cool. Oh, from Tijuana, Mexico.
Welcome to the stream. And keep on commenting throughout the episode if you have any questions to us about the project, for example, or anything else, please let us know in the comments.
Yeah. Oh, there's Natalie from Canada. Cool.
You're going to hear something
Natalie.
about her later.
Yeah. Awesome. So remember that we also have a dedicated website where you can read articles, watch tutorials, and also all the previous episodes of EDUvision.
Yes, and this season we also have EDUvision podcast.
Yeah.
And you can find this also from the EDUvision site. So if you go to arduino.cc/education and /EDUvision, there are two different tabs for live show and for podcast. And now we have already 2 episodes.
Exactly. So don't listen to them, and you can subscribe, of course.
Yeah.
And as Melissa said, so far we have 2 episodes, so programming, and also the second one that is now out is about open source and maker education.
Yeah. And you can find it, like you said, from Spotify, Anchor. Anchor has a lot of different links, also like Google Podcast. And if there's anyone who have already listened the first episode or the second episode, let us know in the comments. I would like to know, how did you like it? It's a bit different than the live, so it would be nice to get some feedback on that too.
Yeah, exactly.
You can give us reviews also, write reviews on the different platforms.
Remember that on these episodes we have a more in-depth conversation with our guest about different topics related to education and technology. So.
Exactly. So it's not the same content that you see here today. We're not that good that we could say the exact same things that we say today, 2 days before when it was published. But no, it's actually a great discussion with our special guest that we're going to see a shorter clip today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but what if we just started with today's topic? So, Software Freedom Day is an annual worldwide celebration held on September 16, and it's organized by the Digital Freedom Foundation, which is an NPO that focuses on programming free software, open hardware, and also access to technology.
Via technology.
Yeah.
And to learn more about this topic, our today's special guest, Nathalie Duponsel, is going to tell us what is open source. She's going to present her open source project and also tell us a bit more what is maker education.
Exactly. And Natalie is a doctoral candidate in educational technology at Concordia University in Montreal, Canada. And she's also a certified primary school teacher, but she has also taught in the primary, high school, and university levels. And what about Natalie's research?
Nathalie's research focuses on maker education and the benefits, DIY, design, and maker activities for students, for students' learning, as well as how schools can optimize conditions to facilitate teachers' use of maker and design-based pedagogies. And she has a lot of good comments and the benefits of adding open source and maker, this kind of maker, what do you call it? Maker mindset? Maker mindset, exactly. How we can benefit from that. Yeah. So I really recommend to listen to the podcast if you want to know more about that. But now we can hear what is open source and see Nathalie's project.
Celebrating the Software Freedom Day and celebrating open source. So could you explain to our listeners what is open source?
Sure. So open source actually started with software. And it was basically people who wanted to make their software freely available to the public so that the public could use it as it was or modify it and then use it for their own purposes. So we can think of Linux, for example. And now it refers to, we also have open source hardware, we have open source design processes. It's basically anything that a person develops and makes available to the public for the public to use for their own purposes, as is or even modified.
So, Nathalie, you recently worked with an open source project. Can you tell us, please, a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So this project was a MyTax internship that was initiated after the first wave of COVID-19, when we had all of those PPE shortages, so the personal protective equipment shortages. And what happened was we noticed that the maker community really jumped on board and tried to address these shortages by creating their own PPE alternatives. So, a big one that was adopted in a lot of hospitals were 3D printed face shields to help protect the frontline workers and the medical workers a little bit more from exposure to the virus. And one of the big shortages was N95 respirators, which, the difference between a mask that we wear, generally speaking, let's say in public, is that it's intended to protect the people around us. In case, let's say I have COVID and I don't know it, if I'm wearing a mask and I sneeze, or when I'm talking, at least I'm not spreading it as much as I would be if I weren't wearing it. But a respirator is what a frontline worker or a medical professional would be wearing to protect themselves. It filters the air so that the contaminated particles don't come through and they don't inhale it. But as when COVID first began, these respirators were obviously in short supply. And so a lot of makers were trying to come up with 3D designs for creating reusable respirators that could be used when N95s weren't available. Which was wonderful. I think this just demonstrates the generosity and the wonderful mentality of the maker community, and I think it's fantastic. Our concern as a team was, these are wonderful, but PPE is usually rigorously tested to make sure that it's effective, to make sure that frontline workers and medical professionals aren't putting themselves at risk when they don't think they are. And most of these things that the maker community was coming up with weren't tested. So thankfully, due to Anne-Louise Davidson's network, which she is tirelessly always developing, we knew an engineer who specializes in aerosol filtration, and he and his organization that he works with, IRSST, were willing to share their equipment and their skills with us and teach us how to do these tests. So what we decided to do was, okay, let's take the most promising ideas out there and test them to see if they're safe. And then if they aren't, or if they need some adjustments, we can make the adjustments. Again, open source, right? And so we use 3D printing to create a lot of our our designs because 3D printing is just so flexible and malleable, and we use an open source 3D printer, which is, again, made possible to us because they are far cheaper. We used a $300 printer to do this, not a fancy $5,000 printer. And we printed and tested a bunch of different ideas, and we found one idea that was just fantastic. It solved a whole bunch of problems with the other 3D printed ideas. And then what we did was we tested them using a piece of equipment that is usually used in hospitals to make sure that the N95 respirator is fit properly. And we tested this device, it's called a mask frame, over a certified surgical mask, which is known to filter particles as very well, so to filter out the contaminated air particles. And we found that the results were comparable to an N95 respirator. Now, I should mention, it needs further testing. As I said, PPE needs rigorous testing to make sure that it's safe and then that it will protect the people wearing the PPE. This still needs to be tested further. But if a person, let's say a medical professional, finds themselves in a situation where they don't have PPE available to them, let's say an N95 respirator available to them, this may be a good alternative in that kind of situation. It needs to be further tested, and I think it's going to be very promising. I think that it will be quite effective based on what we saw. But I don't want to make claims yet that oh, you can just use this instead of an N95 respirator. No, you know, N95s, they've been rigorously tested, they're certified for a reason. But this may be an option in a case of an emergency or a lack of other options.
Very interesting. It sounds like a very promising start. So
yeah, and I have to say that this is the mask frame, just to show you. It's kind of hard to see against the background. Yep. This is the mask frame. So it essentially what it does is, here, I'll actually put it on.
Yeah.
You just wear a certified surgical mask.
Mm-hmm.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, good. A certified surgical mask, and then you put the frame over the mask, like this. The bottom part goes around my head, but I won't do that now just because I'm wearing glasses and such. Yeah. And what it does is it seals any gaps between your mask and the face so that the air is forced to go through the mask rather than around it. Mm. So in the case of an N95 respirator, how it works is twofold. There are two important factors. The first is that it uses a material that filters out the particles that we don't want getting in. We want some particles getting in because people need to breathe. But there are certain particles that we don't want getting in. And those particles are about the size of, let's say, aerosols that may contain viruses in them. Okay, so it needs to have filtering material. And certified surgical masks like this one filter those particles out very well, just as well as an N95 respirator. The problem with these, though, is that they don't fit tight against your face. Yeah. So there may be gaps. And of course, like anything in life, air will go through the path of least resistance. So if there's a gap, it's going to go through there instead of going through the mask because there's less resistance just going through the gap. Mm-hmm. So what that frame does is it creates that fit. It creates that seal between the mask and your face so that the air is forced to go into the mask and through the mask rather than around it.
Okay.
Very clever idea.
I don't know if you have tested or probably have, but when you're wearing that, or at least I've noticed that when I'm wearing a mask and then when I'm talking, it easily moves and then you kind of feel that you should maybe correct it, but you shouldn't at the same time touch it. Does this help with that too?
Yes, it does. So this model that I have here, I forgot to mention, and I want to make sure that I mention it because I want to give people credit for their work. So this was developed by a person called Xuan. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Shiuan on Thingiverse, which is a website where people share their designs for other people to use. And so she developed this, and this is where we saw this idea. The only downside to this particular design is that it's rigid all the way around. So when it's on your face, and let's say when I'm talking, my jaw is moving down, right? Mm-hmm. So it means it's pulling down the top here. So it cuts into my nose. And generally speaking, it will cut into people's nose. So what we did was we made another model that has just an elastic band at the bottom instead of a rigid bottom. And that way it stretches when you talk. But the elastic is tight enough to keep that seal there even when your mouth is closed. But it's loose enough that it allows you to talk. And it's just as effective as this rigid one. And yeah, because the elastic goes under your chin, but over the mask, it keeps the mask down. So it doesn't keep moving up. And of course, because it's over your nose and on the mask, it prevents it from coming down. So it keeps it in place, which is a nice unexpected side effect, I guess.
Yeah.
Feature of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's great. This is such a great project. And talking about open source, Natalie shared with us an instructable to build the project. So you can find the link on our EDUvision website and in the description.
And your current PhD research focuses on maker education. Could you first tell us what is maker movement and what is maker education?
Sure. So the maker movement is a current resurgence of do-it-yourselfers and making that has basically arisen due to the existence of the internet, so we can share ideas more easily globally, and to open source technologies, which have made things far more accessible to the average person versus, let's say, only to experts in companies. Now, of course, human beings have been making ever since we made our first tool. And people have been making ever since then, and globally we've been making. But the current maker movement, when we talk about the maker movement, is that resurgence that's taken place over the last 20 years, let's say. Now, maker education tries to take the maker mindset, what we call the maker mindset, and the maker culture. So like any culture, for instance, a culture is about the practices and values that a group of people hold. So the practices and values of the maker movement, which tends to be a lot about collaboration, working with each other, trying to find solutions to everyday problems, trying to take that mindset and that culture and bring it into schools. And that's what maker education is about. It's not about teaching kids how to use 3D printers or teaching kids how to use a drill. That happens as a part of the process, but that's not the focus. The focus is to get kids to develop a certain mindset, a certain mentality of collaboration, of sharing ideas, of finding solutions for themselves and for people in society. It's about developing skills like creativity, thinking outside of the box, or in the case of kids, keeping that skill of thinking outside of the box. About innovation and design skills. So it's about those skills and that mentality more than just about learning how to operate a 3D printer. As I said, that's great. That's good. Mm-hmm. Glad they're learning that too. But that's not the primary focus. And so that's what maker education is. It's trying to, and it's also trying to make that link between what kids are learning in schools, like the theoretical stuff that they're learning in schools, and seeing the practical applications. There's so many. I'm an elementary school teacher, but I specialize in mathematics education. And so many of my kids in high school, when I was working with high school kids, said to me, "Why do I need this math? How is it ever going to be helpful?"
Exactly.
Right?
I remember, I think I've even asked that myself when I was
absolutely. You know, I've had so many kids ask me that, and making is a wonderful, wonderful way to demonstrate to them how the math is useful to them, So it's important about making that connection too. So what kids are learning in schools already is very important. They do need to learn that stuff. Yeah. But making helps it be a little bit more relatable to them.
This is great. Then
yeah.
If our audience wants to follow you, where can they follow you? How they should connect with you online?
So they can connect with me on, primarily I work with the education makers. So check us out on educationmakers.ca. LinkedIn is a good place to reach me as well. Yeah. So you can just search my name, Nathalie Duponsel, and you'll find me on LinkedIn.
If you have some teachers that will be like to be part of your research, they can connect with you there. right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Thank
Well,
you,
thank you for
Natalie.
having me. This is a really great conversation. I love what you're doing. I've always loved EDUvision, and I love what you're doing. And as I mentioned before, for beginner teachers, this is a great place to start because Arduino has a lot of supportive materials, like your student kits, and where there are those instructions. So a teacher who knows nothing about it can just literally sit and look at the instructions, and they have it all there to start with. So,
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We want to grow this community
Yeah,
of
exactly.
teachers and support each other. So thank
For
you.
sure, sharing. Thank you, Natalie. See you soon. Take care.
thank you for having me. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
That was a great interview.
Yeah, and a lot of great comments from
Yeah.
you guys also. I want to still say, was it Alexander?
Alex, yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to try the mask project.
Yeah, and he was 13 and had already learned from Maker Education how to 3D print. So
exactly.
if you have any project you would like to share with us, do that on the EDUvision site.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more also about what is open source, you can take a look at an article we have which is called What is Open Source and Why is it Important on our website.
Yeah, you can find this from the EDUvision website. And from there, like we said, you can find the links to listen to Nathalie's full podcast, the episode we had with her, the second episode, and also read the article about her work activating Yes Mode, the power of open source and maker education.
Exactly.
And I would say many of you who are here today listening this and watching this, participating in our discussion, know that Arduino is an open source hardware. But what it means that you can, for example, for our Arduino Uno board, I think it's the most common board used in education, you can find all the different files to create it yourself. You can create your own version of it, and you can find all this information from Digital Store, store.arduino.cc. So there's Eagle files, pinout diagrams, schematics, and more info how to build your own Arduino Uno board.
Exactly. And if you don't want to build your own board, it's fine. But rather include a maker education approach with your students, or just want to start tinkering with electronics and programming quickly and easily, you can use the Arduino Starter Kit. So it comes with all the necessary components to build 15 projects, a projects book with step-by-step, and instructions. And we also have some video tutorials for each project on our website.
Yeah, so from the education side, there's remote learning, where you can find a tutorial video for each of these projects.
Exactly.
Yeah. And after going through the project, there's actually a fundamental certification that you can take. So
it's like an online exam.
Yeah, so you can be officially certified for Arduino.
Exactly.
And for all of you watching this today, until Sunday, we have a discount code for Starter Kit.
Yeah, exactly. It's 50%, right?
Yeah, 15% on our store. So if you go to our digital store, you can find it's on discount.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we now can move to the demo we have prepared for you today, right? And it's like this project is a visualization with Arduino and processing.
Yes. So our colleague Anton is going to tell us a bit more, but first I can tell what is processing.
Of course.
So there might be someone who doesn't know what is processing. And it's an open source graphical library, an integrated development environment IDE, like the Arduino IDE. Maybe you have used that one. And it's built for the electronic arts, new media art, and visual design communities with the purpose of teaching non-programmers the fundamentals of computer programming in a visual context.
Yeah, exactly. And processing uses the Java language, and also provides a graphical user interface for simplifying all the compilation and the execution stage.
So I think it's time for Anton.
For sure.
I'm gonna turn the camera to him.
Yes.
Hello guys, here I am in this cozy corner. I'm going to show you some cool projects, very easy projects that you can make with processing and Arduino. And in this case, we're just going to use a simple photo transistor, very simple setup. And you can find the tutorial after the show. So I'm just going to show you some examples here. Let me share my screen. There we go. Here we go. So this is just a sphere, but if I shine my light on it, you can see that it's reacting. So I'm just taking the data from this phototransistor and sending it to processing, and it's really, really cool. It's a very simple project, and anyone could try it. So yeah, really cool. I can shine my light like that. I'll show you another project. Let's see. We can try this one, for example. Oh, 1 second. Let's go to the cool one. There we go. This one is really cool. So I'm kind of controlling this particle system here with my light. And we got different examples for you on the tutorial that you can try out as well. I'm just going to show you these two, and you can explore by yourself later on. So yeah. And if you want, you can take a look at the processing website. I'm going to show you here. And they have some really cool examples that you can learn from, as well as I recommend you to go to Open Processing. They also have some really, really cool examples that you can take inspiration from. So yeah, that's that. Back to Rox and Melissa.
Thank you, Anton. That was really cool. I really like the visualization part.
Yeah.
It adds to your project, right? That like actually seeing on screen what you're doing with the circuit, it's really cool.
And if you want to create this yourself, like Anton said, you can find a tutorial from the EDUvision site, or a lot of different kinds of tutorials from the processing site.
Yeah, exactly. And also talking about projects, remember that you guys can submit your project to us, and then we can show it live and share with others what are you doing and making. So that would be great if you can share with us your creations.
Yeah, and I can see there's a comment, someone saying that I can post my project on EDUvision site, that the Typeform isn't accepting responses. So we're going to look into that immediately after this live. If it's like that, we're going to fix it then, and hopefully in a half an hour you're able to submit your projects again. I'm really looking forward. So I'm really looking forward, yes. Akila, maybe it's your project the next Thursday that we can see here in this EDUvision episode.
Exactly. Nice. So I think that then that's it for today?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it for today. So remember, for next week, everybody, create your Arduino project and share it with us on the EDUvision site.
And also we see you live next Thursday, September 23rd, at the same time, 5 p.m. Central European Summer Time.
Yeah.
And we will talk about self-driving vehicles, right?
Yeah, the future of automated driving systems and opportunities education. So all the students, if you're listening to this now and you would like to be working on the field of automated cars and all that, next week we have a guest who can tell us a lot more about that, Chetin Meritli.
Yeah, he's the CEO and co-founder of Locomation, a leading developer of safe and reliable autonomous driving technology for semi-trucks. Very interesting.
Definitely. And remember, if you haven't listened to podcasts from this week or from last week, you can find it from our site, from Anchor, from Spotify. And next week's guest, we're going to have the podcast live before the live episode, so you can even go and listen to that before the live show.
Exactly. And don't forget to subscribe.
Yes, and give us comments. We want to know what you like, and if you want to see something else, who would like to see as a guest, what kind of project you would like to see here.
Exactly. Thank you for joining. See you next week, all of you.
Thank you. Bye.
Adios.